Welcome everyone. This is Coach Beverly, and this is our Coach Beverly Connects Day. We're not officially starting yet. We'll start in about 1 minute, but I just wanted to make sure all of my video is working correctly and you can all see me and type in your comments and questions. That would be terrific. Of course, I'm getting a bunch of pop-ups on my screen. Okay, so I just sent a note to Brent to make sure everything is looking okay, but we'll officially start in 1 minute. Oh, thank you, Brent. I have your questions here. So we'll be addressing your questions. Of course, I came with my pancreas and my diacell. So we are so ready. We are so ready for this Coach Beverly Connects. We just wrapped up with our virtual online conference last week, and that went, y'all are so sweet. Someone just said, I love your outfit. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, what happened? Oh, so we had a virtual conference last week, and it was a lot of information, but it went so great, and the participants really felt like they got a lot out of it. So really thrilled to share that with you. Okay, so I'm noticing it's 11:30. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. So I'll just turn my head to make it official. Welcome everyone to Coach Beverly Connects. I'm Coach Beverly, and this is my office. If you're wondering, is she in someone's living room? No, this is where I get to work every day. We built this office about 10 years ago when I was able to move out of my extra spare room in my house and build an office space. And I said, I just want an office space that's light and breezy and has opportunity for movement. And, it's a place where people feel comfortable and invigorated doing the work of this company, which, we're a small company, but we're mighty. We just actually updated our website. We have a new drop-down menu that is so much easier to navigate. And I really want to give a shout out to Brianna, our Director of Operations, and Brent and our whole team for constantly updating our content and our website and our usability and really making sure that we're meeting your needs and also reflecting our values as a company. And it's just been such a great journey. As y'all know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I'm just like, wow, this is my job. It feels like I belong here. Like, what else would I do in my life? This is just something I am so fortunate and blessed to be a part of. So before I get officially started with Coach Bev Connects, I thought I'd read a little blessing. And this is actually a wonderful book. It's called Yoga, Healing, and Love by Tammy Stone Takahashi. And a good friend of mine that is now retired, but we worked for many years together, sent me this book. And so since it is National Earth Day and National Earth Month, and yesterday was Earth Day, I thought I'd do an Earth related blessing that I think that was great for the whole year. May I expand with each in-breath as the flower awakens in the sun. May I release with each out-breath as the flower sighs and folds in when the day gives way to dusk. I love that. Such a great opportunity to just sit and be present with ourselves. We have very hectic lives. So that book, I just open it to any page. I'll hold it up one more time. Yoga, Healing, Love. I open it up to any page and I'm inspired. Tammy Stone Takahashi. Well, we had some questions this week that I want to share with you, and I want to thank you for posting your questions. The first question is, how can we increase access to diabetes educators? And there's 4 question marks after that. In my area, a lot of educators' jobs have been terminated in hospitals and clinics. It's so sad. And it is sad. And I think when there's budget cuts, when hospitals or facilities, outpatient clinics are looking to decrease their expenditures. Many times, diabetes education and diabetes self-management education programs might be eliminated because there is a reason. That is, we don't generally generate a lot of revenue, and there's staff, there's FTEs involved. So we might think to ourselves, even though we don't generate revenue, we all know we have tremendous value. How is that value measured? It's measured in different ways than economics is per se, like that we're generating revenue. It's measured in improved quality of life for people with diabetes. There's an associated decrease in visits to urgent care, to emergency rooms, to people coming in with infected wounds and hyperglycemic crisis, because they've received diabetes care, management, and coaching, plus education. And all of this together helps people with diabetes be more knowledgeable about their self-care and to avert emergencies before they happen. And so what I would encourage each one of you to do is to document your daily activities in some way. And I'll just give an example from when I worked at Stanford Hospital. I was an inpatient diabetes nurse specialist, and I was seeing individuals throughout the hospital. So nobody really knew what I was doing. They just saw me running around. So I said, I want to have job security. So I would document how many individuals I saw each month, on what floors, what types of interventions I was doing, and especially for those individuals who were coming back to the hospitals a lot, how was my intervention helping make a difference? And by documenting that, sharing it with all the key stakeholders, it really helped secure my position, and even secure my position, it helped me grow my position. In addition, I just want to say something else, and I've done this at all the hospitals I've worked at. I would measure outcomes. So I would look at what the blood sugars are running on the inpatient side, and how we were treating it, and how is that reflecting length of stay and frequency of hypo and hyperglycemia. Then I would report that out to the medical staff and say, we need to make some changes here to improve diabetes care. So that measurement of outcomes, whether we do it in the inpatient side or the outpatient side, validates that we are not only providing care, we are looking at, is our care making a difference in people's outcomes, visits to the emergency room, how their confidence and knowledge in self-managing their diabetes. All of those factors really demonstrate our value. So I'm going to encourage each one of you to toot your horn. It's not comfortable. We're not used to tooting our horn. Toot away, because we need to let people know what we're doing. In addition, the American Diabetes Standard, the ADA Standards of Care says everyone with diabetes, everyone. It doesn't say most people or people with severe diabetes. It says each person with diabetes needs diabetes self-management education. That is the standard of care, and that's been the standard for years. Why? Because we know it works. So we have the ADA Standards of Care, and we know Medicare will cover for DSME. So when people hit the age of 65, Medicare covers 65% of diabetes self-management education. There's also diabetes prevention programs, other ways that we can reach out to our community, generate some revenue, and share with our community that our healthcare facilities really believe in diabetes care. So we need to market ourselves. We need to let people know how awesome we are. We need to let our stakeholders, managers, administration know that diabetes care and education specialists really not only add value, because it shows a commitment to the community of that location to promote the best diabetes care. There's also hard evidence to show we help decrease acute and long-term complications. So well worth it. And that, oh wait, I need to say one more thing. I have a free webinar on this topic called Revitalizing Your Diabetes Program, and I give a lot of different hints on how to share and let people know your value. You are valuable. And please know that if your facility or hospital eliminates your position, it's nothing to do with you. It's just economics. But it can be really emotionally challenging for us, because we put our heart and soul. Diabetes care and education specialists, we enter this field because of our passion. It's a passion profession. And so we take it so personally. Use that energy to make a difference. Use that energy to find a job that really matches your values and honors your contributions. Thank you. Now, let's see. We have another question. This question is regarding gestational diabetes in particular, but may have other application as well. I've been reviewing more CGM reports lately. I'm sure this is true for all of you. And it's made me think more about, oh, Cynthia, I'm so sorry. She just wrote, my department was just eliminated, and that is just tragic. I am so sorry to hear that. That is heartbreaking. And, you know, I think just having this connection time where we share our stories and support each other through these difficult times is really helpful. We can always see when the economy constricts, it's more likely that they're going to cut on departments, and diabetes education may be one of those fallouts, unfortunately. But again, just stating our value and finding locations where they recognize that and are there to support us in providing the best diabetes care and education. Yeah. Okay. Let me get back to this one, and I'm going to keep thinking about this as we go through because it's so important. So, I've been reviewing more CGM reports lately, and it's made me think more about overnight and fasting blood sugars. I love that. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm going to try and stay focused because people are commenting, and I'm kind of just new to this, so thank you for your patience. So I've been reviewing more CGM reports lately, and it's made me think more about overnight and fasting blood sugars. When we get a blood glucose log that has fasting numbers, it's very clear if they are on target or not. How do we approach the numbers when we can see the entire overnight pattern on the CGM report? Great point. So when somebody's just checking their blood sugars in the morning, we just get one data point, right? That morning blood sugar. But now when we look at CGM, we can see what is happening overnight. And this happened to a close family friend of ours where they were just checking their blood sugars, you know, once or twice a day, and things appeared to be going really great. Then they got a CGM, and it was just, I just want to use the word mind-blowing because it really was to see all those different data points. What do you do with it? It can be overwhelming. And I think this is really important, not for only diabetes care and education specialists, but for people living with diabetes. They bring in their CGMs and they have their CGM reader, or I look on their app and I say, have you looked at these reports yet? And they're like, oh, there's reports in there? I just look at what my blood sugar is. I'm like, yeah, there's reports in there that help you really figure out what's going on, because this is a lot of data to manage. So I think just that recognition, this is a lot of data to manage, can really be affirming for people. And then how do we use this information to figure out, are things on the right track, or do we need to make some adjustments? Well, I've got some strategies for you. Hang on one second. So Blake asks, if the blood sugar is sitting around 100 but dips down in the early morning, is that on target? Right, so the person you'll see around 6 a.m., they're running around 100, but all of a sudden it drops to 70. Is that on target? What do we do with that information? Well, if this person is seeing this happen on a usual basis, because one day does not a pattern make. And 70, you know, as long as they're above 70, that alarm's not going to go off. But many people have different thresholds for where they feel comfortable with their blood sugars. So we generally like that blood sugar in between meals and overnight not to drop more than 30 points. We want to stay within that 30-point range. So if they go to bed at 100, we'd like them to wake up between 70 to 130, right? Just staying in that nice range. So if that person is dropping to 70, now are they going to get up and eat? Is that their natural time to get up and eat? Or is it at 70 and they still have 2 more hours of sleeping? That might be a dangerous situation. So I think the first thing is safety. Is this person safe? That's always the first thing you want to think of. Do they wake up when the alarm goes off? Do they have their alarm turned on so they can hear it? Where do they feel comfortable with their blood sugars? And do we need to make some adjustments to what? Well, I have some slides here. usually, if the overnight is not on target, that's basal insulin. So if you can take a look at this, general rules with basal bolus insulin. So we want to optimize the basal dose, and it says here, stay within 30 milligrams per deciliter when not eating. So that's what I was saying earlier. But the other thing I have here for the bolus dose, stay within 50 milligrams after a meal. 50 points or milligrams per deciliter. So we don't want people's blood sugar fluctuating too much overnight and in between meals, and we don't want it to rise more than 50 points after the meal from where they were when they started that meal. And what we're thinking about is we're going to optimize basal insulin, check basal bolus ratio, fine-tune bolus settings, fix hypoglycemia. All of these factor in to insulin management. Overnight, though, we usually think of basal insulin. Okay, there's another question Blake asked. What if it sits around 70 but rises up above target just before waking up? Why would it do that? The person's not eating, right? It's at 70 and all of a sudden you start to see it going up. Well, that could be two things. That might be because their blood sugars are on the lower side, and when blood sugars are low, around 70 or less, what happens? The body starts breaking down glycogen. So when glycogen is broken down from the liver, it raises that blood sugar up. So it might be a little bit of rebound hyperglycemia or Somogy effect. And I see that a lot, especially for people with type 2 diabetes, that their overnight blood sugars start dropping and all of a sudden they go up without any food. Whose fault is that? It's the liver's fault. The liver is just creating more glucose to prevent that low blood sugar from happening. If that morning blood sugar starts going up around 4 a.m., that's more dawn phenomena. We know naturally humans' blood sugar starts rising before the dawn. Why does it do that? Well, because there's growth hormones and different hormones that are released that tell the body, hey, this human is getting ready to start their day. Let's raise their blood sugar. But if you don't have enough insulin to manage that glycogen release, it can cause those blood sugars to rise up in the morning above target. So either situation, if that person's at 100 and then they drop to 70, or they're at 70 and they start going up, it's giving me information, probably too much basal insulin. That blood sugar level is not at a comfortable place. We're going to have to check in with that individual. Or maybe we need to adjust the time when they wake up and start eating. But I would say that is a difficult thing for people to do, right? Many people, especially after retirement and different situations, might want to keep sleeping. So we need to kind of factor that in. When is their wake up and eating time? And so that kind of makes me think, what are things that are in that individual's control, and what are things that are being driven by pathophysiology? Can we change pathophysiology? Well, we can adjust the basal insulin, but there's other lifestyle factors that come into play too. So this is where we need to engage the individual with problem solving. Okay, so how do we engage the individual with problem solving? Well, I'm so glad you asked that, because I have the 5 M's. Now, what are the 5 M's? It's a framework to explore glucose levels and beyond. And I have to give credit to Martha Fennell, and she's a famous researcher advocate in the diabetes community. So she works out of the University of Michigan, and she does a lot of research on diabetes along with education. So she's one of our mentors. So the 5 M's. When I'm working with people with diabetes, I'll say, gosh, these are the patterns I'm noticing, right? We're going to look at their reports, time and range, low blood sugar. We're going to give them a lot of love for what is working. And then we're going to engage them in problem solving for the things that are not exactly on target. And of course, we always ask them, what would you like to work on? But I have a bias towards safety. So if we notice hypoglycemia, that might be a place we start first. But how can we use the 5 M's to get started? And as I said, the 5 M's, y'all might have thought of an M, if you want to type it in. What is an M? A behavior that could affect blood sugars that a person with diabetes could change. Well, the first one that comes up is meals. Yeah, meals. Okay, so as far as meals, when do they eat? How much carbohydrate do they eat? Many times I find that people don't really have a clear understanding that if they take insulin, they've got to eat carbohydrates to go with that insulin, because as a person gives insulin, their blood sugar is dropping and they need carbohydrates to interact with that insulin and balance things out. So meals, are they, eating high protein meals? Did they take their insulin and forget a meal? Are they snacking? Are they grazers and that's affecting? Or maybe they ate last at 6 and they haven't eaten all the way till 7 or 8 in the morning. It's been more than 12 hours without food. That will definitely affect their blood sugars. So meals, big deal. We want to talk about food. We want to make sure everyone with diabetes sees a registered dietitian nutritionist. And we want to gain an understanding of when they eat, kind of what they eat. We're going to do that food recall. And then ask them not only about foods consumed, but also beverages and liquids, because y'all know sometimes people don't consider beverages food, and we're getting a lot of our calories lately through beverages. Okay, meals. Let me go on to the next one. The next M is minutes. So minutes is really important, and I think about this as far as when did they notice their blood sugar. So when, the question kind of was, what blood sugar do you use? So this one gal came in to see me and she goes, Bev, I have a sliding scale for insulin, and she was on 100 units of basal, by the way, 100 units of glargine. And then she goes, and I was given the sliding scale, but I don't know when to use it. She was on CGM. And just like y'all, she was saying, there's all these numbers. I don't know when to give the insulin. Do I give it when it goes above 250? And I go, oh, actually, you would look at what your blood sugar is before you eat, and then based on what your blood sugar is on your CGM at that moment, you'll give the amount of insulin based on your scale. She was like, oh, that's so easy. I'm like, yeah. So she just did not understand how to use that data. And so we might want to choose data points on the CGM. Oh, when you wake up, let's see what your blood sugar is at your morning blood sugar. Before you eat your first meal, let's see what your blood sugar is. 1 to 2 hours after you eat your meal, let's see what your blood sugar is. So we can help people identify certain data points in addition to looking at the reports. The reports give us cumulative data, but those data points give us very important information. And we still have the same target, 80 to 130 before meals, less than 180 after meals. And the CGM targets are 70 to 180. Okay, getting back to minutes. So when did you give your insulin versus when did you eat? That's a really important piece of information, because if a person says, well, I take my insulin 15 minutes before I eat, that's kind of the sweet spot. 15 minutes to a half hour if their blood sugars are a little bit on the higher range, 15 minutes if they're a little bit, closer to target. So even though they might be on a pump, it still takes time to enter the circulation and get that insulin to get doing its job. So that relationship is important. What if they give the insulin right when they eat? All right, well then that blood sugar is going to go up, and that insulin might not be absorbed yet to help get that blood sugar to target. So we might see more of a postprandial spike. What if they take their insulin after they eat? Well, then they might see that spike up, and then they're going to give their insulin and it might come back down. So this timing is a critical question. When do you give even on a pump, whether they're doing injections, when they take their meds, all that stuff. So minutes. And then what else is minutes? What do you do after you eat? And how long before you do that? And we'll get to that next M in a minute. Okay, next M is what? Movement. Oh my goodness. Movement. How does movement affect that individual's blood sugar? It's very different for everyone. Sometimes I'll say, okay, after you eat your meal and you go for that half-hour walk, that might be like taking 1 unit of insulin. I try and equate it in some way. So on those days that you take the walk, maybe, especially like you take that walk after lunch, it seems like your blood sugar is dropping after lunch, a little bit lower than it's comfortable. So maybe on those walk days, you just take 1 less unit of bolus insulin before you eat, to recognize that that post-lunch movement is going to be like taking an extra unit of insulin. Movement. And I'll just say that sometimes people, when they get this CGM at first, they're like, oh my gosh, my blood sugars are running crazy high. And so they're just like exercising like crazy. And that exercise or movement will affect their blood sugars for 24 to 48 hours, after the exercise event. And they might be putting themselves at risk for low blood sugar later. So we need to have these conversations. Like, how do you feel? Like, I'm going to get into the emotional part of how they're responding to those blood sugars. And what action do you take? Do you start, walking like crazy, lifting weights, going for a swim? Do you start dancing to get those blood sugars down? And y'all know the other thing about movement, it can temporarily cause those blood sugars to go up. So that even freaks people out more when they're on their CGM and they're like, wow, I just walked and my blood sugar's elevating. Yeah, that's from all the counter-regulatory hormones being released that temporarily raise blood sugars, but blood sugars tend to come back down as the muscle has to reclaim all that glucose to store it as glycogen. Movement, when are you doing it? How long do you do it? What impact does it have on your blood sugar? We're going to ask that person with diabetes to be a little investigator of their own selves. People with diabetes have a lot of expertise in themselves. We want to make sure we tap into that. Okay, what's the other M? Have y'all thought about that? I'm sure you came up with another M. Mood. Does our emotion affect our blood sugar? Yeah, it does a lot. I mean, just when we're stressed out, we release more stress hormones, catecholamines, adrenaline, and all of these make us more insulin resistant. Our body is getting ready for that flight or fight. So our mood can definitely impact our blood sugars at that moment and make them more difficult to come down. So when a person on a CGM says, man, my blood sugars are so up, you can imagine that might cause some anxiety and some adrenaline release, which might even amplify it more. We want to encourage people to say, gosh, try to limit the amount of times you look at that CGM when it's going up. I mean, of course, being cautious and so forth, and try and do some deep breathing and meditation to see if you can't calm your body down a little bit. If that's an appropriate thing to say, sometimes it's not the right moment. So we kind of have to gauge that. The other thing about mood is mood can affect our ability to move. If we're feeling really distressed and upset or discouraged, it makes it harder to engage in activity. And sometimes our mood might encourage us to eat foods we normally wouldn't eat. If we're really stressed, we might reach for that food that might raise blood sugars, or we might eat less and we might be at risk for hypoglycemia. So we're going to explore that with that person. And the fifth M is meds. What meds are you taking for your diabetes? How is that affecting your blood sugars? What insulin are you on? What types of insulin? Are you on the very long acting insulins or just a short acting or a combination of both? In addition to that, do you take any of the SGLT2s or the GLP-1s, or are you on metformin or sulfonylurea? All of that comes into play. So when we think about the 5 M's, it's not really us giving instruction. It's us collaborating with the individual with diabetes and helping them go through these 5 M's and thinking for themselves, so it's so easy for us to say, oh, your blood sugar overnight, it dropped too low, let's cut back on your basal. We could say something differently like, I noticed your blood sugar overnight went down to 70. What do you think could be causing that? And obviously we know the answer, right? But by engaging that person, engaging their expertise, helping them come up with ideas. Maybe they say, you know what, I actually had a few glasses of wine last night. I didn't really eat much dinner. Oh, okay, thank you for letting me know that. That's super helpful. But by engaging them in the conversation, like, wow, why did my blood sugar go up so much after I ate, this meal? Wait, do you have any ideas on that? Now, giving it back to them, they can start thinking for their own selves about what works, what doesn't work, and it empowers them, because we all know that we're not with people with diabetes 24 hours a day, right? They just see us on these visits that may last for half an hour or an hour or maybe less or more. So we want to empower them with the ability to kind of look at those numbers and make sense of them. Well, we have 2 more minutes before we wrap up with Coach Bev Connects, and I'm just really thrilled that you are joining us, and we'll be thinking of you as you go through. Uh, for those of you who have had to that your positions were closed and you've had to find new opportunities, our hearts are with you, and the local networking groups are another really great place to get support and ideas and to find out about different opportunities. So I think building community together can really make a difference in this journey as diabetes care and education specialists. Okay, any other comments you'd like to share or questions? We'll be broadcasting again next month for a half hour of Coach Bev Connects, and we'll be answering your questions. So if you think of any questions in the meantime, please send them over to us. This just provides me with a nice format to share information with you in a more informal way, and be in community and conversation with each of you, and just to let you know how important you all are to me and to people living with diabetes. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. This is Beverly Tomasian signing off. Thank you.